Hello, my dear students. Today we are going to discuss a beautiful poem called Abhisar or The Tryst, which is written by Rabindranath Tagore. So, the meaning of the word Abhisar or a tryst is usually a meeting, a rendezvous with a loved one. But here, this is not a romantic story, but a story of true compassion, humanity, and unconditional love. So let's go into the poem. So before we go into the poem, let's go into the poetic scheme of the poem. Rabindranath Tagore has written this poem in free verse with no particular rhyming scheme that is followed, but the rhythmic effect of the long lines make the poem a pleasurable experience. So it is like a beautiful story which includes lot of vivid visuals and auditory images to make reading this poem a wonderful and sensual experience. So let's begin. Upagupta, the disciple of Buddha, lay asleep in the dust by the city wall of Mathura. So this starts with the explanation of Upagupta, who is the disciple of Buddha. So he's lying in the dust on the floor, which shows that he has no home and he lies on the street. That means he has discarded all worldly pleasures and he is living a very simple and non materialistic life. Lamps were all out, doors were all shut, and stars were all hidden by the murky sky of August. So, the poet has included beautiful imagery where it shows that the lamps were all out. That means it was pitch dark, all the doors were shut, and even the stars were hidden by the dark and gloomy sky or the cloudy sky of August. So Upagupta is living a lonely, ascetic life, a secluded life on the streets. And he is quite far from materialistic desires. Whose feet were those tinkling with anklets, touching his breast of a sudden? So while he was lying down, it was pitch dark. So someone's feet had touched his chest. So he was wondering whose feet were those. But he realized it was a woman because of the tinkling of the anklets in her feet. He woke up startled, and the light from a woman's lamp fell on his forgiving eyes. So, this young woman, she stumbled upon the body of Upagupta and he woke up startled. And the light from the woman's lamp fell on his forgiving eyes. So, when they write forgiving eyes, it shows us that the ascetic or the monk was very merciful and calm. And here the poet has used transferred epithet. So what is transferred epithet? Transferred epithet is usually when an adjective that describes something else is placed with a different word. So here forgiving eyes is written. So forgiving is generally used to describe the mind, but here forgiving is used along with eyes. So when we look at the first stanza, through the imagery, we get an idea that everything is dark, right? But after another stanza, it shows a lot of blossoming flowers and brightness. So that shows light. So here the poet wants to show the changing conditions of life, that life is transcendental and it shows the impermanence of life and situations. So who was the young girl? It was Vasavadatta, the dancing girl, starred with jewels, clouded with a pale blue mantle, drunk with the wine of her youth. So it was Vasavadatta, who was a dancing girl in Mathura, and she was richly adorned with jewels. So she was all shining with jewels, and she had clad a pale blue mantle, and she was drunk with the wine of her youth. So, here it does not literally mean that she was drunk, but she was intoxicated by the joy, the beauty, the vitality of being young, and the allure of her beauty, and also of youthfulness. So here the poet is comparing the youthfulness of the girl to wine, which means to say she was kind of intoxicating. That means she was so immersed in life's pleasure, and she was exhilarated with her youth and her beauty, that she was also a little reckless. So here, by her description, we can come to know that her life is in stark contrast to the life of the monk. She lowered her lamp and saw the young face, austerely beautiful. So she lowered the lamp and saw the face of the ascetic. He was handsome, but in a very simple and unadorned way. That means he was very plain, but yet very handsome. So she says, "Forgive me, young ascetic," said the woman. "Graciously come to my house. The dusty earth is not a fit bed for you." So she politely invites him to her home and says, this dusty earth is not fit for you. The young ascetic answered, "Woman, go on your way. When the time is ripe, I will come to you." So the ascetic refuses to abandon his simple life, and he says that when the time is right, I will come to you. Okay. Suddenly, the black night showed its teeth in a flash of lightning. The storm growled from the corner of the sky, and the woman trembled in fear. So, here the poet has used personification, where the black night is shown as someone that has life in it, and it is baring its teeth in a flash of lightning. And the storm is shown to be a person who is growling from the corner of the sky. So, a storm was approaching, and that startled the woman, and she trembled with fear and she returned home. So the woman was scared, she returned home. Then a year had not yet passed. So then it is talking about the future incident. It was evening of a day in April in the spring. So now the season has also changed. It is past 8 months now, because that it was August and now it is April. The branches of the wayside trees were full of blossom. So wayside means on the side of the road. So there were the branches of the trees on the side of the road were full of blossoming flowers. So it shows a cheerful condition. Gay notes of a flute came floating in the warm spring air from afar. So, a very happy and cheerful notes of the flute, it came floating in the spring air from far away. The citizens had gone to the woods for the festival of flowers. So, all the people had gone into the forest for the festival of flowers, because everything was now blooming in the spring season. From the mid sky gazed the full moon on the shadows of the silent town. So, here again, the full moon is personified here, because the full moon is gazing the shadows of the silent town. The young ascetic was walking in the lonely street, while overhead the lovesick quails uttered from the mango branches their sleepless plaint. So here, plaint means the expression of sorrow or lamentation. So here again there is a transferred epithet, because sleepless is not having sleep, and plaint is expression of sorrow or lamentation. That is using two really different words put together to express something. Here, the mango branches could symbolize shelter and comfort. So, the birds, the koels, are using shelter and comfort to express their sorrow or lamentation. Upagupta passed through the city gates and stood at the base of the rampart. So, Upagupta, he passed through the city gates and stood at the base of the city wall or the defense wall of the city. What woman lay at his feet in the shadow of the mango grove? Struck with the black pestilence, her body spotted with sores of smallpox. She had been hurriedly driven away from the town to avoid her poisonous contagion. So there was a woman who was lying in the shadow of the mango grove. So that is what? So the mango tree symbolizes shelter and comfort. So she was lying under the shadow of the tree and she was struck with black pestilence, that is a fatal epidemic disease, and her body was spotted with sores of smallpox. So here the sores of smallpox or the black pestilence, which is a fatal epidemic disease, can symbolize painful suffering and societal ostracism. So, what is social ostracism? It is intentionally ignoring someone or excluding from social interactions and making them feel invisible. So, it is a very painful experience, just like when someone is going through severe physical pain. So, here her pain is not only of the sores of the smallpox but also the pain of being excluded from society. So, because the people did not want to get contaminated, the once beautiful, youthful woman who was in the brim of her youthfulness was now excluded or thrown away from the city because of her physical ailments. So, if you would have noticed in the beginning of the poem, it was pitch dark, but she was very happy, she was youthful, she was richly adorned, she was joyful, she was full of vitality and life. Here, now it is the season of spring, everything is bright and blossoming, but she is in a very difficult condition. She is thrown out of the society, she is in pain. So, here the poet wants to remind us that many a times the outer world might not reflect our inner feelings or thoughts. And it is also a very powerful reminder that our life's conditions keep changing. Nothing is permanent in life. The ascetic sat by her side, took her head on his knees, and moistened her lips with water and smeared her body with balm. So, what's the ascetic doing? He's giving her comfort and caring for her and showing kindness to her despite her condition. So, he's trying to ease her pain and he's giving her water and trying to soothe her sores or heal her sores by by smearing balm to it. Who are you, merciful one? Asked the woman. The time at last has come to visit you. And I am here, Vasavadatta, replied the young ascetic. So he says that now the time has come where I have come to help you. So here he showed his compassion when she needed help and care the most to survive. In the beginning, Vasavadatta showed love and kindness by offering him a home in the beginning. And now Upagupta showed his selfless love and compassion to the girl when she needed it the most. So, this is indeed a very thought provoking and deeply moving poem that shows us the harsh realities of life, shows us that beauty is only skin deep and beauty can be fleeting, whereas love, kindness, and compassion towards others remains forever. Now, let's go towards the various themes in the poem. So, the first one is human compassion. The poem highlights how the most important trait is to be compassionate towards others and to be selfless towards the service of mankind. It also portrays that we should genuinely be caring towards others and not show shallow admiration of others, because selflessness and humanity transcends physical attraction and status symbol. So this is a very, very important point. How human compassion and selflessness is very important in today's life. The second is the transient nature of fate. That means it keeps changing, it's never permanent. The poem reminds us that fate changes with time, and many a times the outer world might not reflect our inner thoughts and feelings. Also, it reminds us about the impermanence of worldly pleasures and how life's inherent uncertainties have to be confronted. You have to confront the uncertainties of life. Nothing is permanent. The next is the purity of spiritual love. So, though the title of the poem is The Tryst, so what is the meaning of tryst? Tryst is usually a romantic meeting between two lovers. But here, the poem doesn't deal with the conventional romantic love affair between two people, but it is more of a very selfless and unconditional love that exists. So, the Tryst, it is not a romantic story, but of spiritual love and care, which is unconditional and not judged based on diseases or physical ailments, but rather asexual and pure. The love portrayed in the poem isn't romantic or physical, but pure and compassionate love. The next is the temporary nature of beauty. So the poem in the beginning describes a girl who's beautiful, immersed in life's pleasure, and proud of her beautiful appearance. Unfortunately, as soon as she contacted an epidemic disease, she was thrown out and deserted. So the people showed apathy towards her. So this is a powerful reminder that beauty is not permanent and we should not be proud of such qualities that are fleeting or changing. Hence, it is a reminder that true fulfillment comes through spiritual connection and selflessly helping others rather than vanity, looks, or material wealth. So, this was indeed a very beautiful poem with very beautiful meaning behind it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't and share it among your friends. Until we meet next time, take good care of yourselves. All the very best.